Should the Miami Dolphins make a trade for former number one overall pick Bryce Young? Yes, we're going to be talking about Mr. Young on today's show. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. And you might be wondering why this would even come up. Well, he got benched yesterday. Tom Pelissero had the breaking news, but Dave Canales, the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers, announced yesterday in a press conference to the media that they are going to be benching the former first overall pick out of Alabama and Heisman Trophy winner in favor of Andny Dalton. Coach Canales did say repeatedly that Bryce is our quarterback, but I don't know how you can confidently say that and have people believe that if you're benching the former first overall pick after 18 career games. And that makes me question, well, could they be open to a trade? Because if you're benching Bryce Young after 18 career games, that to me tells me that they are done with the Bryce Young experiment. Like, because you don't bench someone that you drafted that high this early in their career because they've already now lost all confidence in your organization. And you just basically told him that they have no confidence in you. So, how could you go back to Bryce Young? Which was why I believe a trade could be on the horizon for Young this year, potentially. And maybe Miami is a team that becomes interested in the situation. It's very intriguing to me to believe that they could go out and get the number one overall pick. And that's kind of where I want to start before we dive into the nitty gritty. Let me know, does Bryce Young interest you? Are you intrigued by going out and potentially trading for Bryce Young? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I am intrigued. I know he's got a small stature, 5'10", 204 pounds, but this is a former number one overall pick that we're talking about here. And I mentioned he also won the Heisman. And I know a lot of people are going to go back to the 2023 NFL draft and say, well, how could they ever take Bryce Young over CJ Stroud? But that was going to happen regardless. Like, think about this. The Texans tried to trade up from 2 to 1, and they openly said they would have traded or taken Bryce Young. And from a Dolphins perspective here, this is where the quarterback room now stands after the signing of Tyler Huntley 24 hours ago. Tua, they have yet to make a decision on what they're going to do with him in terms of IR or not. Either way, he's your QB1. And then Skylar Thompson is QB2, likely QB1 with Tua out. And then after signing Tyler Huntley to the active roster, which is not official yet, by the way, because they do have to make a corresponding move when Huntley becomes official, and they are not prepared to do so, which means Tyler Huntley's not officially signed pen to paper yet, but that's just a formality. So could they add Bryce Young to this room? Well, we've kind of mentioned it a little bit over the show today, but just to get to remember him, if you just are unfamiliar, he is the former number one overall pick just 1 year ago. He's a small guy in stature, 5'10", 204 pounds, and that's really limited him. There was some film from this past Sunday when they were playing the Los Angeles Chargers of him having to quite literally take a little jump while throwing the football just to drop it down on a check down. It's a tough look, and he's only played in 18 career games. And that's kind of where I want to at least start this conversation. It's like, I have a hard time believing that a number one overall pick is just simply this bad through 18 games. Like, this is an all-time bust if this is the case. And there's been a lot of busts in the National Football League, and it's hard for me to imagine Bryce Young, someone who excelled at accuracy, anticipation, decisiveness at the college level, is just simply not able to process at all in the National Football League. His numbers through 18 games are as ugly as you can possibly imagine. I said this in the Chat Sports office yesterday, and I got looked at like a madman, and, well, probably am a madman. But that 8.9 ESPN QBR through 2 games for Bryce Young, I actually swear, if you put me out there and just had me throw 10-yard, back shoulder routes to Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, I'm putting up a better QBR than 8.9. 8.9? That's out of 100. That is absolutely horrid. And when you looked at his rookie numbers, they weren't too good either. 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, not even 3,000 yards, under 60% completion percentage. I'm getting nitpicky there. He basically had 60%. But his QBR in his rookie year was only 33.3. These numbers are so bad. And everyone expected. It was all right, Carolina's offensive line was horrible last year. They go out, they get Robert Hunt from us and try to bring him in at right guard. They bring in Dave Canales, who had a unbelievable good offense last season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is where Bryce Young finally has the coaching, the structure, and the offensive line to succeed. It just has not been that for the first overall pick from 2023, and now that's why he's benched and he might be available via trade. Make sure you hit that sub button because if the Dolphins do make any moves or have any rumors or news come out, we will have you covered. We also will be having weekly live shows, including one later today. So join us on the channel about 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you hit that sub button. Join us for the best Dolphins coverage. Although we displayed the numbers, the issues with his height and size, I still do feel that Bryce Young is better than Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley. Now, we are talking about former Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley here, but he's certainly better than Skylar Thompson. And I just look at the stats here, and this is the most telling. Like, even though Bryce Young's numbers have been horrible, just compare them to Tyler Huntley because he's played in 2 more games. I mean, he's got a better completion percentage too, for sure, but like 1,200 less yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks. I think Huntley's fun to watch when he gets out of the pocket and starts scrambling around, but he's not as good as a thrower as Bryce Young. And Skylar Thompson, if we tripled his numbers, it wouldn't even come close to Bryce Young. Like, to me, even though that Bryce Young has got his deficiencies, he's got his struggles, he hasn't been good in Carolina, he also would have the weapons of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, which might instill confidence in the former and first overall pick. Sure, the offensive line isn't great in Miami, but it's not like it can be that worse from Carolina. So to me, you're improving in terms of offensive play calling, weapons, and maybe a change of scenery for Bryce Young could get him back to his confident self and allow him to really fulfill his potential. More in the conversation and what I think a trade would look like, but we are sponsored by Game Time, the number one way to get your tickets. It's the way I get my tickets every time I purchase and go to live events, including when I went to LSU USC a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas. I used Game Time to get them, and I used their new feature, Game Time Picks, because it makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They also have all-in pricing, which allows you to toggle a feature that shows you the total price of your ticket up front rather than getting blindsided by fees at checkout. You could also see your exact vantage point while you're looking in the app, get a panoramic view of your venue. Doesn't have to be a sporting event. Like I said, they got other events in their repertoire. Get started with Game Time today. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right. I do believe that the reason why Bryce Young has been struggling the way he has through the first 2 games of this season and at the tail end of last year, I think it's a confidence thing. And I mentioned that a couple minutes ago, but I believe he lost confidence in his teammates in Carolina in terms of them being open, making plays, in terms of them being able to protect for him. And as a quarterback, as soon as you lose your confidence, it's over. Done. Because now you don't believe what you see with your eyes. You're always looking over your shoulder about getting absolutely hammered by opposing defensive linemen. And when you drop back to pass, you might think, oh, I see cover 2. But then that 1 millisecond of hesitation, and you're like, well, I'm going to hold on. I'm not going to throw that seam shot because it might not be what I think I'm seeing. And then you get sacked or you make a worse decision and just check it down. Like, I think he's lost confidence. And I think Mike McDaniel might be able to get that confidence back out of him because as we've known, I'm not going to call Tua a one-read quarterback. I don't think that in the slightest. But the Dolphins' offense is very predicated in making one read and then reacting off of that. And with the speed of Hill, Waddle, I think it could be very beneficial for Bryce Young to start working with them and Mike McDaniel to start to get back to that number 1 overall pick form. And I don't think the price tag would be high. The risk for Miami in this situation would be very, very low. Like, I think this trade is a perfect outline of what you can get for Bryce Young. Remember what happened this offseason when the Chicago Bears traded Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a conditional 6th-round pick that became a 4th-round pick depending on playing time. And although Justin Fields was not the number 1 overall pick, he has shown back in Chicago to be a better quarterback than Bryce Young has shown in Carolina. So that is why I think this price tag of a conditional fifth, conditional sixth, conditional fourth round pick could be the same price point for Bryce Young as it was with Justin Fields. It just makes a lot of sense because Fields did show the ability and character to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League way more than Bryce Young has done. So if he's available for a fourth round pick or a fifth round pick and Carolina's willing to move on from him and end that experiment, then I would be calling them up. Because as much as I am intrigued by Tyler Huntley, if Tua is out for 4 or 5 weeks extended, I think Bryce Young would give this team a much better chance to win than Tyler Huntley or Skylar Thompson. But you be the GM for me. Would you trade for Bryce Young if the price tag was only a fourth round pick? Would you send the fourth for Bryce Young? Type T for trade or type P if you're passing. It's pretty obvious, but I'm typing my T for trades. And the reason why is that I'm buying extremely low and I could potentially sell really high. Because a lot of people might ask, well, if you trade for Bryce Young and he plays well like you want him to, and he wins you 4 or 5 football games in a 6-7 weeks stretch, well, what do you do with Bryce Young? Because Tua is obviously QB1 when you came back. When he comes back, he's got that big contract. Well, the good news is if you are able to get the best out of Bryce Young and you show other teams that, well, maybe there's still something in there for the former first overall pick, well, then you can get him for a fourth, and then you could potentially trade him for a second round pick. And now, do I expect that to happen? Maybe not, but it is a realistic situation. It's all about that stock market, baby. Buy low, sell high. It's how it works. Get that money. But either way, I do think it could. There is no risk for Miami in this situation. What, you trade a day 3 pick for a former first overall pick when you have a needed quarterback and it just happens to not work out for 5-6 weeks? Woo-hoo. Like, it's better than trotting out Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley, in my opinion. But, hey, maybe I'm wrong, and Skylar Thompson goes out and balls against Seattle this Sunday, and the Dolphins pick up a win on the road, and then I have to shut up and praise Skylar Thompson for as long as he is the starting quarterback. All right, that's going to do it. Make sure you are subscribed. Like I said, daily content here at Dolphins Today. I am Nic Rohloff. We are live later today, so join us for our weekly live show. We're going to be talking about all news, rumors, and the game this upcoming Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. But also, we're going to be live on Sunday for that game against Seattle, so make sure you join us then, too.